Credlin with Rowan Dean. Peter will be back on Monday. Now, the United Kingdom has been closed down with all non-essential venues shut throughout the country for the next 4 weeks. As Britain attempts to suppress growing COVID-19 numbers, Prime Minister Boris Johnson is insisting the lockdown will end on December the 2nd.
These measures, though they are tough, are time limited. The advice I've received suggests that 4 weeks is enough for these measures to make a real impact. So these rules will expire, and on the 2nd of December, we plan to move back to a tiered approach. There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, Brendan O'Neill, who's the editor of Spiked Online, I urge you to check out Spiked Online and subscribe to it. Brendan joins us now from London. Brendan, you're now locked up for the next 4 weeks. What will this lockdown do to businesses in England, especially as Christmas approaches?
It's going to be disastrous. It's an unmitigated disaster in my view. There's no justification for this lockdown as far as I can see. You know, when the government was pushing the second lockdown, it said that if we don't take this course of action, there could potentially be 4,000 deaths a day from COVID. That is complete and utter nonsense. There haven't been 4,000 deaths a day in any country on earth from COVID, including in much larger countries than the UK. And that particular prediction has been utterly destroyed over the past few days. People have revealed that it is complete nonsense. This is looking like the government's dodgy dossier moment, where they are using scary predictions to try to terrorise the population into accepting a lockdown, which will have a destructive impact on businesses, a catastrophic impact on jobs, and a terrible impact on people's health. We know in the first lockdown that we had back in April, people's health suffered enormously because they weren't getting the treatment that they need, because the National Health Service essentially became a national COVID service and wasn't really dealing with anything else. These are the consequences of lockdown, and we're going into another one. It's completely insane.
Well, Brendan, we've seen some horrible examples of what appears to be the overreach of power as police enforce the lockdown rules. Here was a 73-year-old retired nurse who was arrested for trying to take her 97-year-old mother out of a care home.
So let's just make this very clear. My nan, my 97-year-old nan here, who we have taken from the care home because we haven't seen her for 9 months, is now being taken back by force to her care home. My mother has been arrested. My mother is in the back of the car here. She is a nurse. She is a fully qualified nurse who is wishing to care for her own mother. And here we have an incredible use of police time to take my 97-year-old grandmother back into a care home where she is deteriorating, where we haven't been able to see her for 9 months. Nan, I love you, and we are going to fight for you.
Brendan, this is just horrific. How is this even remotely justifiable?
It's completely horrific, and it is not justifiable at all. You know, what's happening to elderly people in care homes in this country is just a complete and utter disgrace. Some of them haven't had visits for months and months. You know, we're talking about some people who are in advanced stages of dementia, for example. They think their families have abandoned them. They have no understanding at all as to why their sons, daughters, grandchildren haven't been to see them for months on end, because we've had this utterly cruel policy of preventing people from visiting loved ones in care homes. And that's why this lady went to take her mother out of the care home, so that they could at least be with her during the second lockdown. And she was arrested. This is the thing about the lockdown. The lockdown is presented as a way of protecting us from disease. But what it's actually doing is turning millions of ordinary Britons into criminals. You're now a criminal if you take your parent from a care home. You're a criminal if you have a political protest, which are now banned in the second lockdown. You can be criminalised for going out more than once a day, for doing certain things you're not supposed to do, for opening a pub. The government is criminalising people under the guise of protecting us, and our liberties have suffered enormously as a result.
Well, on the politics of it, Brendan, Boris managed to get this vote over the line in the House of Commons, but 34 Tories voted against this lockdown, 34 of his own party. I mean, this is not good stuff. All this in the name of protecting the NHS. Now, Is the NHS actually worth protecting or worth saving, Brendan? It sounds like a complete disaster.
Well, it is a disaster. And the way I see it, if our National Health Service, if there is, every time there is a crisis like COVID-19, then the only way our National Health Service can cope is by shutting down the entire country for a year virtually, destroying the economy and destroying jobs, then that is a health service that needs a serious think. It needs a serious reworking, because that's just unsustainable. But the point is that the real danger in the first lockdown is that we were told to stay at home and protect the NHS. So the NHS had to be protected from us, the people it is supposed to serve. And as a consequence, thousands of cancers went undiagnosed or untreated. Lots of other forms of treatment were cancelled. We know that there was a real spike in the number of people dying from heart problems and strokes at home, where normally these people would at least have got to a hospital for some form of treatment, or would have possibly died in those kinds of conditions instead. So this fetish with protecting the NHS at all costs is having a detrimental impact on people's health, because they're not seeking the healthcare that they need, and the National Health Service is failing us at the moment.
Brendan O'Neill, our thoughts are with you. Stay safe, stay out of the NHS would be my advice. Maggie Thatcher must be spinning in her grave at what Boris Johnson is up to. Brendan, great to chat to you, and we'll chat to you soon again. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ryan.